Hey everyone, it's Stephanie and Edmond Lee, and you're tuned in to another episode of Our Four Cents. So,
That was so fun.
what? Oh, my earring's falling off. Okay, well, whatever. So, that's real life. So, I don't know if you guys watched the show This Is Us. It's a remarkable show on NBC, and we had several requests to talk about the last episode. It was a major episode with two of the major characters on there, and it discussed relationships. The characters are Beth and Randall, and they are at a interesting point in their marriage.
Spoiler, if you haven't watched This Is
Yeah.
Us and you're going to watch it one day, you might want to stop
Yeah.
and go and do that. But
Yeah.
still hit the notifications and like and subscribe so you can see how we talk about it afterwards.
Yep. But they are at an interesting point in their marriage. So why don't you just tell them a little bit about Randall and Beth in general?
All right, so first of all, they're a black couple, and Randall's really, he's adopted, and he's always been fighting to fit in. He was adopted, he was raised by a white couple that had two other children during the same day. So they're like triplets, but obviously he's had to deal with different things. He's extremely intelligent, very systematic guy, very goal-oriented, and sometimes it makes him miss some emotional things. He suffers from some panic attacks over time, but they met, I think it was early college or something like that. Freshman year, and then they've just kind of, he worked hard to get her, and they ended up having two kids and an adopted child. And he's just always bringing people in to help them, brother, dad, etc. Very giving person. And he's ran for a councilman and won. There's some story behind that. And but there's some things that he doesn't see. Because he's a good guy, he has some things from a communication standpoint that he doesn't see, and I guess we can kind of talk about that.
Well, tell them about Beth.
Oh, yeah. I was going straight to the to the person I feel had the most opportunity for growth. And so Beth is very supportive, very quirky, and she's hilarious. She reminds me of this one here with some of her comments and witty behavior, but she's very supportive. She has dreams of dancing. She has had her own career as well, but she got fired and was laid off. And then in college, she was kind of searching for herself. She rejected Randall at first, and even while he was trying to propose, she just wasn't ready. She didn't know where her career path was going. So she's been very supportive and sometimes to a fault to herself.
Randall and Beth as a couple, if I'd have to wrap them up, they are like the new age Cosbys. You know, they're the couple that you want to be. Everybody loves Randall and Beth. It's like if Randall and Beth don't work out, like it's truly the end of the world because they can't not work out. Like they are the couple, like the ideal couple. So they're that couple, and they're kind of going through some things. And so
Ideal Cosby's. I hope Randall stay clean, man.
Yeah. Oh God, I guess that's not a good reference anymore. I missed
the
that.
Cosby on the Cosbys, right? That's not the real life stuff.
Yeah, the TV show. Whoever enjoyed the TV show, they're like that ideal couple.
The Huxtables, the real Huxtables.
There we go.
Right?
So this episode shows them kind of at a breaking point because Beth has now found herself. She's found her passion again. She lost her job like a season or two ago. She had been really successful for a long time, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do. Randall found himself in a new way because he had quit. You know, they changed the roles. They worked really well together. And so he ran for, councilman. He won. She has now reignited her passion for dance. But with the three children and kind of the needs of the kids at the time, they're finding that, okay, we need to really make this work. And they're struggling to do that. And so Beth has always found that she tends to be the one who takes the loss. She takes the L and says, okay, I'll stay home, or I'll not do this, or I won't go there, or so on and so forth. So we find the beginning of the episode them hitting that breaking point and really discussing what they've been holding on to.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of the last episode before, because that's where it sparked off. Sparked off where she basically had, well, here's where issue number one. So Randall wanted her to Randall's busting his behind, making it home. He works in life's ways away, so he commutes. He's burning the midnight oil with this whole new councilman job, or getting ready to be. And so he has certain things though that his wife in that political world, not needs to be at, but it's very good if she's at these types of dinners and stuff, which is a commitment. It's kind of like being a first lady at the lower level. So anyway, he asked her to go to this dinner with him. She commits and says, yes, I will be there. And then what comes up is then later she wants to go to this dance thing. They want to talk about, I think, the studio or something that involves her, and they don't do it often. And that comes up afterwards. So she calls and wants to do that versus the dinner. And it was a little thing at first because she really kind of was like, hey, you know, I'm putting your stuff first. And that's what the whole thing. You want to speak on that before I get to what happened, or just kind of go through it?
Well, like, we could just kind of talk about what happened. And so basically, she gives in again because she really...
Well, hold on. She didn't give in. She kept her word. So let's start with that. She committed to being there before something else coming up. And that's very key because being of your word is very important. What she wanted to do was be of her reason, which is a reason to break her word because she had this thing up. But that doesn't matter. You gave your spouse your word that you're going to attend something with them that's important to them, and you gave your word first. You got to be there. And your thing comes second. So she didn't give in on this one, but she surely made a choice to keep what she said she was going to do. However, on the right there, just tell them what happens. And Randall doesn't know this, but let's just talk about this.
So basically, her phone dies. He doesn't know that her phone dies, to speed up because we got to get to the actual episode we're doing the review of. Her phone dies, and he calls, and he feels like she is basically giving him not some good behavior. I'll say it nicely. She basically is not responding, and she's decided to choose herself. And so he leaves somewhat of a nasty message for the Randall character.
Very nasty.
Somewhat of a nasty message on her phone. It was belittling. It wasn't cursing or anything like that, but it was definitely like belittling.
You're over watching, a bunch of housewives trying to dance.
Right.
It was bad.
And so she ends up showing up at dinner and announces that she has been in traffic for the last 3 hours. And this entire time she has heard the message, but we don't find out until the end of the episode.
I knew she had.
I would definitely let it be known that I
knew she had known.
But he doesn't know that the whole dinner. So he's really trying to like rack his brain on how to get to her before she listens to this message. But she hears it. They, after the dinner, they go outside. They get into a mini argument. She says, sleep on the couch in your office. He comes home and he's like, we're going to have this thing now. And she says, okay, if you want to have it, close the door. So slam, the episode ends. And this episode opens up with them having the conversation.
So let's close the loop on that one. So there's two major things to learn in that one. And one is the commitment of your word and not allowing just reasons to come up to shift that. And that's just in life and in everything. So we want people that's watching this to take that away, to think about, I had a person today who was supposed to call me for business, and then they're like, oh, the day got away, this, all that is reasons and excuses. You told me you're going to call and you didn't. So it sets a bad taste in my mouth because I don't like to operate that way. And we all fall short at different times for it. But I think the key is to have a barometer to say, like when I brought it up, like, no, she didn't give in. And she's like, you know what? She did. So we both have that agreement to understand that was the commitment, right? Number two is we have a rule in one of our other videos. Maybe we can link it to this. One of our rules about relationship. We did a 3-part series. And one of the things was the rules of argument. They don't have a rule of no belittling. So they overstep their boundaries and it hurts. And when hurt people are hurt, they hurt other people. But belittling is like one of the below the belt type of things. Hurting somebody's dreams, emotions, and their weaknesses, especially your spouse or whoever you're dating becomes the most powerful person in the world because they know your weaknesses and they can hurt you verbally better than anyone can. So that's the two things that we want to talk about. If he didn't belittle her, it would have been a different conversation, but this stuff needed to come out eventually. So those are the two things from the video. Now let's talk about, they close the door, they start the new episode, and they get to going on this discussion.
So I would urge you guys to watch the episode because we can't go through every scene of the episode. But the summation of it is that from Beth's perspective, she gives a montage of history of where she feels that she was put in a position, and I'll say she allowed herself to be put in a position, but she puts herself in a position to always have to be flexible. And the reason why they're having this issue right now is because she's putting her foot down and she's deciding to choose what she finds to be passionate, what she finds to be important, and not being like the go-along spouse. So they talk about the memory of them meeting, their first date, and how he was very pushy in the first date. And Randall is so successful because he is very, very pushy, and in a good way.
Determined.
He is very adamant about getting what he wants, and he's charming. He's very charming. And sometimes, and that's the thing, I'm just going to jump around, but sometimes you can have a good spouse, but that charm or their level of being very determined can be somewhat manipulative. And if you have years of bending, then you're conditioned to bend, and your spouse is conditioned to see you bend. And so you don't realize, even in a good relationship, sometimes you can be manipulative because this is what you do.
Just
He's
like
so charming.
the living single thing. Remember we talked about that?
No.
No. They were. Remember they were in the grocery store.
Yes.
And she was taking her single day, like she snuck out to have her day alone.
Yes.
And then she was about to do this, right? And we're skipping around, but who cares? So in one part, she basically had enough. The father was in the house. His brother was staying there. It was all these men, and she was like, I just need to get away. But she lied and said she was going to some, convention, but she really was just going to be by herself for a night and eat snacks in the bed and watch reruns of Living Single. Mm-hmm. He ended up in the same grocery store, and she just broke down and told him, like, look, I just want a day. I just need to take a beat. And what happened, lesson number 3, is if you watch it again, if you watch, you may not have noticed it. When she was saying, he was like, you know what, you should do that. Go ahead. I get it. And then before he left, he's like, well, what episode are you going to start with? And then they start reflecting on the episode. And then she's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to watch it without you. Now, a spouse can know if that reaction, if that will happen, or the chances of that happening. So that's what we're talking about, a way of manipulating what he should have done, or what I would say that if you feel your spouse really needs that, whether they want to take a break or not, he should have put his foot down and said, no, you can't come home. You're not allowed home. Go take a day, get a massage, go to the spa, whatever. Instead of, oh yeah, you sure? Are you sure? All that's BS, man. If you put your foot down for other stuff, put it down for your person to take self-care and to relax. So if you have not done that, please do it with your spouse or with whoever you're dating, or even yourself. Take a beat, because it will pay off for that person emotionally, physically, and even in the relationship. So
and where Beth could have taken ownership is by not allowing herself to bend. So a lot of times, if you're the more flexible spouse, or you find yourself being the one to put your pursuits or what's important behind your spouse, then you have to take ownership of the fact that you do that. And so it can only continue to happen because you continue to do that. Now, in relationships and marriages, there are certain times that we put our efforts towards one thing and we put our efforts towards another, depending on the season. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the spouse who always is like, okay, well, I'll do that, or okay, I won't go there, or okay, I'll watch the kid. There has to be a time where each person gets to shine. And so we see Beth throughout the years fall into what Randall wanted to do. Even with them getting married, he proposed many times, and the running joke was like, the next proposal. And she eventually found a way to be confident in being resting assured that I'm going to be present and I'm going to evolve in this marriage the way that I want to. But she was apprehensive for a while, and after many times she gave in to that, and it was a choice to give in to that. But their dynamic has always been Randall kind of pushing. Randall ran into, he searched for his father that gave him up for adoption, found his father, brought his father into the house. He had to have him, and he saw, the relationship with his father through until he passed away. He found his father's building, and he had to have a piece of his father, so he bought that building, and Beth was on board. He wanted to be councilman, even when Beth wasn't on board, because she did say, hey, I'm going to support you, but and he said, if it gets tough, let me know. And she said, hey, it's getting tough at one point, and he didn't back down. So we see Randall in their history not necessarily stick to his word,
Yep.
and
That's the
also
issue.
not be flexible. But he's charming. And so it appears that, well, he's a good spouse and he's a good husband and he's so passionate. So that's another thing. But on the flip side, we can say, okay, well, Beth continues to give in. So it's a lot of dynamics that you have to be careful about.
There's a couple things on what you said I want to talk about. Number one is the part that you just brought up about the councilman thing, and when she said, hey, they had an agreement. Mm-hmm. And when it got going, he's like, I can't give up now. And that's his reason stepping up. And here's the thing that a lot of times we do. A lot of times we will make certain job titles, and positions more important than our spouse subconsciously and our home. And that can break the actual home. That can make things worse. So what if it's councilman? Unless you had that agreement and being on board, then go find another job. Do something else. If it's that bad. But here's the thing. They could have an agreement just like Michelle and Barack had. Okay, we're going to support you to get president, but as soon as that's over for your second term, it's all about me. And now she has the highest selling book in the world. And they elected to put his book, behind hers. And that's something that was an agreement. And you can tell, even if you listen to her talk or watch it, that's something that was agreed upon. Now, if they come to an agreement and say, Beth also has to take responsibility to say, if she keeps, like she said, keeps letting these things happen, and you realize that she was the most comfortable in the relationship when she has a sense of peace and control. Even in the proposal, it was where she wanted it to be, eating her favorite food at her favorite place. And sometimes Randall has to give her that without her taking it.
Yeah, because she has to take it because he is overwhelming. He's an overwhelmingly good person. And that passion, that pursuit, sometimes his spouse couldn't get in the way of that. And I think that's why she chose to say, this is going to happen, especially something like getting married. Yeah. This is going to happen when I want it to happen. And to have to circle around for 20 years and finally re-engage with the passion that you had given up so long, that's tied with the father who passed away. She's finally at a point where she's saying, no, I choose me. And I would want my spouse to choose me because I've been choosing them. Where it gets a little touchy is where she says, because he basically, at this point, Randall's like, I'm not willing to accept accountability. And this is where Randall struggles, because even though she is responsible for what she is allowed, Randall's not really taking accountability for this overwhelming, assertive, sometimes blind personality that he has, sometimes selfish. And he says, I'm not willing to take the responsibility for this, essentially. And she says, when was I supposed to basically stand up? Throughout all your anxiety attacks? So that was a low blow. Here's the thing with that. Randall does have a history of anxiety attacks. I think the timing of what she said was wrong. I don't think what she said was wrong. She could have said it differently, but I think the overall message, and this is real life, because a lot of people will say, well, she shouldn't have said that. She could have done it whenever. But if you have a spouse who struggles with panic attacks or anxiety attacks, there is going to be a time where you have to make a conscious decision to choose to be flexible or throw all the efforts towards what they need at that time, or if it benefits the family. So that was a really touchy part that I felt like she could have said in a different way at a different time, and it would have been received well. But it was, at that point, it was too far gone.
And here's the thing. Here's something I'm guilty of it. I'm gonna make up a name for it. It's called Find a Little Sliver, right? The little sliver, right? She knows where I'm going with this. It's like, no, you done said talk about my anxiety, not my anxiety. Now I'm clinging on that little sliver, right? To hell with how I was wrong on the other stuff. Yeah. You were wrong in that one thing you said. You got too loud, or you cursed, or you whatever. Find a little thing that little vein you could just hang on to quote unquote try to win the argument. Yeah. I'm a professional at this, ladies and gentlemen. So I understand when he said that, I was like, oh man, there's his out. But that's not the right thing to do. Yeah. And I work on it. I'm a work in process. God is working through me. So just let you know, don't be like that. Don't take that little thing and make that argument now about that when it's really about the other things that you weren't listening to.
Because the argument now is at a point where he's like, you know what, I am gonna go sleep in my office, and it's done. So now this entire thing that she has shared, and she shared more examples, watch the episode, is like
Because
non-existent. Because
Yep.
okay, I found this thing, I found this out, I found this way to be more hurt than her, because I'm sure it was really hard for him to digest all of these balls that she kept, like 20 years of balls that she kept throwing. And he took it and he ran with it. And that's where the episode ends. We haven't watched last week's episode, but, you know, there's a lot that could change. It's hard to see it when you're in it. But from the outside, that's why we wanted to do a review, because we definitely learned stuff, and we saw some things that we had done, and we saw some things where we're like, oh, that wasn't the best thing to do. And I know that you guys did as well.
Yeah, I think it was one of the best episodes just in television.
Yes.
You know, it's a great episode. It's a good thing. I think you all should, after watching this, I think you should rewatch it and then listen to some of the bullets and the things that we said, and just start to see where you see yourself in it and where they could have become better. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people watch certain things to make a person right or wrong, or agree with the women's side or the male side, and that's what a lot of people do in therapy. When you go to therapy, a lot of times, and that's what they're at a point now that they really could use a therapist,
yes,
a marriage counselor, someone that's even keeled, that can, because most people
can hear them when they can't hear themselves.
Even the Obamas, they went to therapy, and Michelle even admitted that she wanted that person to make him wrong.
Yeah, that's
we
what
all
we go to therapy.
We go to therapy
tell him that he's wrong,
so you can agree with me and tell her she's wrong. We don't want to hear how we're wrong, because we're not. We're perfect. We're good. It's this person's fault, right? So, and never this person. I'm not going to therapy for me. Well, it's to fix you.
Right.
But it's not about fixing. It's about opening up and being able to be heard.
Yeah.
And after you do it, you can start seeing it differently.
Yeah.
And even when you watch other TV shows, Married at First Sight, whatever, you'll start hearing like, man, I see what's going on. Instead of being so quick to judge, start to just try to see where and why that's happening.
And you'll be convicted, because there's been many a train wreck show that I've watched where I'm like, I can't believe. And then I have seen myself in that person. And I'm like, full of shame. So if anything, it's really about like recognizing, because for me, watching things, there's always room to grow. You could watch anything and pick something up from it. But this episode was phenomenal in terms of where we see ourselves and how we can all do better in relationships. And they definitely need a third party. Like, I don't think that they'll be able to successfully move on with longevity. They can move on and pretend, but with longevity and really make the tweaks that they need, if they don't have a third party. And the reality is they're 20 years in. So we like to say, 20 years ago, you weren't the person I married. Well, I wasn't. And a lot of things fall through the cracks in marriage and in time and just in life. And so you may have to revisit some things. You may have to adjust. We can't all wear our cheerleading uniforms from 15 years ago. That's what it is. Maybe you need to open up a seam. Like, marriage requires that type of love and tender care as well. Like, you have to make room for it.
I think as long as, and I'll just speak on Randall's side for now, is it's not about, you being the exact same person. But if you deal with accountability a certain way, you probably have dealt with it since childhood a certain way. Or being right or wrong, or trying to look good based on things you saw in your house. Or they even flash back to how his dad didn't really value his mother's dreams. And this is a rule that I think you should just put in place. Whoever you're dating or whoever you're with, their dreams is just here. It doesn't matter if that dream is to be a president, or to be a dancer, or to be the #1 meditation coach. It doesn't matter. Their dream is here no matter what it is. Your dream, or your job, is to support that dream and not to put it down because it's not a dream you value. Who cares if it's a politician or who it's what's the point? Oh, it makes this much money or that much money. The point is this person being fulfilled. And the shirt I even have on, you can't really see it, but it says, let that stuff go. It's a little meditation person. And it's really about letting go all the attachments that we have to so many things. The point is, if dancing makes her happy, it is the #1 thing that you should be care about. It doesn't mean if she should go and be a councilwoman or a congresswoman, or who cares? That's society's design of what's more important than your spouse's dreams. Nothing. So, of course, you have the kids. You got to make responsible decisions, and that's where you come together as a team. But to belittle somebody's passions and goals
Yeah.
is a dangerous, and it's tough to get out of that.
It is, because that your spouse will always remember it. Support it, because
That's how
it
you
may
feel.
change. Your spouse may want to do something. Let them figure out that it's not going to work out. If he walks in here and wants to be an astronaut, I'm going to let him figure out that he will never get off the ground. He's not going to.
But
he's not going to do it.
I will come in here with a spacesuit.
I know he's not going to do it, and I will say, "Oh my God, I love that spacesuit.
I get a
It's like
spacesuit from
shiny
Goodwill."
Spacesuit. Like, sometimes you can let your spouse figure it out, and sometimes, like, marriage isn't fair. Like, I really hate hearing, "Oh, that's not fair," or "It wasn't fair to that person." Like, sometimes people just have to make decisions based on what's going on. And I think, from my perspective with Randall and Beth, this is the time where he could have made a better decision.
Very much so.
Because it has been predominantly about his needs, and she's been super supportive. So much so that when she got upset about hearing the voicemail, it was like, when have I ever not supported you? When have I ever treated you in that way where you thought I just wasn't going to show up? Because history shows I've been a consistent, supportive spouse. So.
Yeah. And I'll just take it back to that core, and this is one of the reasons I think that they should, some type of inner development. Randall's whole thing is really coming from fitting in and wanting to be worthy and look good, have purpose in life. So if you break it down, okay, why? And you look at it, oh, I'm driving back and forth, I'm doing this. Well, you chose that. It's kind of like playing football and say, man, I'm running sprints every day and I can't eat fatso stuff. Well, you chose to be an NFL player, so you can't do that.
I'm gonna eat the cake.
Yeah, you need to do something else. So if you're a council person and you live so far, you knew that when you used to drive to campaign that was a part of it. However, his drive for being important in the neighborhood where his father, grew up, to connect and to fit in, and he had to constantly prove himself even when campaigning that I'm fit in, I'm black enough for you all, but not too white, not too and that's a tough place because he was obviously a black person that was adopted. Now, that is a tough place to be in. I'm not sitting here to belittle that or say that. I know that is a tough place. I think being abandoned by your parents or not having parents is probably the worst, ticket or the worst way you can start this world off is, and that's really, it's like he's against all odds, right? So he's really trying to make it work, and he doesn't get that. So if he doesn't get why he's doing all this stuff, then I think Beth is going to constantly be a part of his cycle of worthiness. And also, whatever he feels is worthy, if she's not on a path that he feels is worthy enough, then her dreams are going to be smaller.
Mm-hmm. If I could close it, I would say you can't outrun yourself. So you will always show up in your life. Yep. You will always show up in your life, and you'll always show up in your relationships until you do the work. All that stuff stems from somewhere, and it will continue to show up. You'll be like just the child in adult shoes and adult clothes. There's always that piece. So continue to do your work. It'll benefit not only your life, but your relationships. So that's it. Let us know what you guys thought. Watch the episode. Maybe ask us some questions about things we missed, because there's so many things that you can discuss. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, and we will see you guys next week.
Hey, one thing before you guys go. If you watched it and you watched this and you're going to watch it again, please let us know what you got from the second time watching it. We'd love to see you comment more than once, because we just want to see if there's a shift and if people are actually gathering a different perspective and viewpoint. I just want to test that out. So if you can, that'd be great.
All right. This is our 4 cents. Keep the change.